Good afternoon, everybody. This is Stacy. It's June 16, 2017. It's about 9:30 in the morning here in Las Vegas time. I wanted to share this motion. Deb Jordan posted on Facebook the latest motion filed by the prosecution, and what it amounts to is that he wants to prevent the defendants from bringing up certain days of the week prior to the standoff and after the standoff. So, for example, let me get to the page here. I think I went too far. He has specific things numbered. Okay, so he doesn't want the events of April 6th in which the officers encounter with civilians during the arrest of Dave Bundy, including any testimony concerning a video or audio depicting that event. He doesn't want that information in the court. Now, the next item he doesn't want in the court occurred on April 9th. Here's the interesting thing, though. Guys, on April 7th and April 8th, incidences occurred which the prosecution will put into evidence. What they're doing is cherry-picking events that they don't want brought up, such as the event on April 6th. It doesn't mean prosecution's not going to talk about April 6th. They just don't want this specific incident brought into evidence. And the judge, in the past, she's been ruling that this is okay. So like the event that occurred on April 9th in which the officer encountered with civilians during a convoy block, including any testimony concerning or video or audio recordings depicting officers' encounters with Ammon Bundy or Margaret Houston. Now, we know the event that they don't want the jury to see that happened on April 9th. It doesn't mean that the prosecution is not going to talk about all the other events of April 9th, but they just don't want this incident in, they don't want the jury to know about it. And they go down here. There's more events that they don't want the jury to know about. And on page, I think it's on page 3, they think it's an improper attempt at jury nullification that's seeking to persuade jurors to acquit or hang based upon political beliefs or values rather than upon the evidence. Now, can you guys hear the flaw in his reasoning? He wants to exclude evidence. He doesn't want them to see this evidence, but he wants them to make a decision based on the evidence. But he doesn't want them to see this evidence because he is afraid that the jury would nullify and acquit these defendants. So here's the issue that I have had with this, and many people have had with this. If the prosecution is allowed to bring up any events on those days, then the defendants should be able to too. But they're not being allowed to because of the judges and the prosecution's fear of jury nullification. And this is what I have an issue with. When the prosecution and judges' focus is more about the fear of jury nullification rather than these gentlemen getting a fair and impartial trial and that due process be done. These are all rights protected by the U.S. Constitution, and they are not concerned about these men getting a fair trial. They are not concerned about the jury hearing all of the evidence, because you can clearly see there's certain evidence they don't want them to hear. So what they're saying is, yes, while this thing happened, we don't want the jury to know about it because we're afraid that they may acquit these men. That's exactly what they're saying. And the judge is like, okay, that sounds good to me. So this guarantees that the jury will not hear all the information and have a better chance of receiving a guilty verdict. If this is not twisted, I don't know what is. But here's the issue. I'm going to reiterate it again. When the judge and the prosecution is so afraid of jury nullification that they're excluding evidence that should be allowed in order for these men to put on a defense and have a fair trial. And the fear of jury nullification is outweighing the men's right to a fair and speedy trial. Something needs to be done. This is not their job, okay? There is a possibility of acquittal because these men are not guilty of what the prosecution and the judge are accusing them of. They're not guilty. And the prosecution knows this. This is why they don't want this evidence brought in. This is why the judge is okay with them cherry picking this evidence. Present all the evidence and let the chips fall where they may. This is the way it should be.